Hello friends, welcome you all in the video Introduction to Data and Data Types. In our last videos, we have discussed regarding the syllabus and introduction to the data structure. Now, before understanding that data structure subject, first of all, we must know what is the meaning of data and what are different data types. So here, as we know that to understand this subject data structure, the prerequisite required is to understand first what is the data types, and based upon that data types we will have different data structures, and by using the data structures we will construct different primitive and non-primitive data structures for performing our different tasks. Now first of all we will discuss regarding data and data types. So as we know that in C language, for writing any program which performs certain processing, we require to input some data, because we have to input the data and the program will process that particular data and produce the output to perform our task. So for writing the programs, the basic thing we require is nothing but first we have to declare the variable. If you see the syntax of declaring any variable, so in that syntax, first if you see the things are that mandatory or compulsory things that required is that first we have to declare or write down the data type of that particular variable, then we have to write down the name of that particular variable. So data type of any variable for is essential and compulsory thing for declaring any variable or for using any variable in our C programs. So for writing or for using the data types, thorough understanding of different data types available in our C or C++ language or any language, Java or any other programming language is necessary. Here we are discussing this data type with respect to our data structure subject. Here we are not discussing with respect to any programming and all that things. So in our data structures also we require these data types. So we are discussing here the types of the data and data type that will be used for constructing our linear and non-linear data structures. We will construct our primitive and non-primitive data structure by using these fundamental data types. So here first of all data is necessary for any program. So that data may be provided internally or externally to any program, and the program will process that particular data and produce the output. So if you take example of C language, so in that before using any variable, first we have to declare the variable, and for declaring that particular variable we require data type. So we'll discuss in this video what are the different and fundamental data types are available in C language and how they can be used in our data structure to write down or perform our data structure tasks or programs. So here basically data types that are classified into 4 categories in case of C language, because our whatever data structure we are going to discuss, it is by using C language only. So here we will discuss all the topics, all data types and all that things with respect to only the C language. So in case of C language we use data types by using basic fundamental data types. There are 4 basic fundamental data types and they are categorized into basic data type, then enumeration data type, derived data type and wide data type. So if you see, these are the 4 fundamental categories of data types in which we have to divide the data types of our particular variable. So if we are using basic data types, in that again we are having int, char, float and double. So these are the types of the basic data types variables. So it may be either integer or it may be either character or maybe a float or a double. So if you are using this, so for basic data type or basic variable if you want to use in your program, so for that you have to declare the variable either integer, character, float or double. Now this is regarding that. We'll discuss it in later on in detail what do we mean by this int, character and float. So this all these comes under the basic data types. Now coming to enumeration data type, so in that we are having only one thing, that is enum, num. So in that we'll see, because it is rarely used. Basically we use generally int, char, float, double, but enum in certain applications we will use. So as it comes under the category of data types, so we are going to discuss it here. So enumeration data type is enum, that is the keyword. This int, char, float and all these are keywords they use for declaring this type of variables. Keywords, if you go in the detail, so they are called as the fixed word which are used in the C programming language. There are total there are 26 keywords are there. From that we are having this int, char, float and double. They are used for declaring the these particular variables. So enumeration data type, the keyword used for declaring enumeration data type is enum. Similarly, we are having another category, third category in our data types is called as derived data type. By using this integer, float and character, we can derive another data types, and they comes under the category of derived data types. And these derived data types are called pointers, arrays, structure and unions. So these are all derived data types. By using these basic data types we can derive them. That's why they are called as derived data type, and they are pointer, array, structure and union. And the last and fourth category, that is called as void data type, and the keyword used for declaring that void data type is void. Void means nothing. If you are not going to store any value, so it will be considered as a void, 0 or anything. So these are the four basic fundamental data types, and in that again we are having the further data types like int, char, float, enum, pointer, array, structure, union and void. So all these are the categories. We'll see what do you mean by this int, char and float. So if you see integer data type, and the keyword used for declaring integer data type is int, all letters are small. These are used for declaring the integer data type. So integer data type allows a variable to store numeric values. So as we know that for writing a program we have to declare a variable. That basic function of that variable is to store values. So if you want to store numeric values, so for that we use integer data type, and for declaring the integer data type the keyword used is int, and the size of that particular int data type is 2 or 4 or 8 byte, depending upon whether it is single, double or what type of variable it is. It depends upon the processor in the CPU that we use. For a 16-bit processor, 2 bytes, that is 16 bit of memory will be required, and depending likewise 4 bytes for 32 bit of memory, and 32 bits and 8 bytes for 64 bit, and 64 bit is allocated to for input integer data type. So like this we can have the maximum size up to 8 bytes for any integer variable, 2, 4 or 8. So this is regarding the size, means how much byte it can store. So here as we know that int is used generally for storing the numeric value, and the range is given here -32,768 to +32,767, and these are the range of the values which can be stored in the integer. Similarly, if you see character data type, means it is used for storing the characters like A, B, C. These are the characters. If you want to store only characters, then we have to use the data type that is called as character data type, and the keyword used for declaring character data type is char. So this char is the keyword used for declaring character data type, and by using this character data type we have to use char as a variable, char as a keyword, and we have to store the values of character in this, because we cannot store the numeric value in the character, or we cannot store the character in the numeric values. So for in the C language it has provided another type of data type that is called as char data type for storing the character. Similarly, we have discussed regarding floating point. So in that floating points, if there are certain values which are having some decimal points, so for that particular type of variables we have to use float as the keyword for storing that particular value. So float may be a float or double. It is used for variable with the decimal values, and size is 4, and depending upon it can vary. we can use up to 6 digits after decimal using floating data type like this. For example, 10.445678 can be used for floating data type, and double data type is also same as float data type, which allows up to use 10 digits after decimal, and the range is like this. So this is regarding float data type. Now coming to the enumerated, we have used that we have seen in that our previous discussion enumerated, and it is very rarely used. Generally in practice we use integer, float and character. So what is the enumerated data type? It is nothing but enumeration data type consists of name integer constant as a list to start with 0 by default, and value is incremented by 1 for sequential identifier in the list. Syntax is, in case of C language, enum is the keyword, identifier optional, and list. For example, we are going to declare here month as a variable, and values of that particular are January, February and March. For that particular type of variable, we can use enum month, January, February and March. So this is the one example of defining enumerated data type. Similarly, we can assign the values for that particular variable, like January equal to 1, Feb, March and April. So like this, the enumeration functionality can also be implemented by using hash defined preprocessor directive. Above enumeration examples are hash defined January 20, February 21 and March 22. So like this. So enumeration data type. Now coming to derived data type, array, pointer, structures and union. So these points are already we are there in the syllabus. We'll discuss them one by one. So what is array, what is pointer, what is structure and what is union, we will define it one by one. So this is a derived data type. And void data type, empty data type that has no value. This can be used in function and pointer. So we can use function topic for discussing that. So in this way there are basic data types and we have to use them in our discussion. Thank you.